Very good morning to one and all. Welcome you all for the fifth day of our workshop on advancements in antenna engineering using artificial intelligence, sponsored by ATEL. It's my great honor to introduce our resource person, Mr. S. Purushothaman sir. He completed his BTech in ECE from Pondicherry Central University and received his master's in ECE from National Institute of Technology, Tiruchirappalli. Currently, he is working as a senior scientist in ISRO, Government of India. He has been working in ISRO for the past 16 years. He has outstanding research experience in the area satellite communication and microwave engineering. His immersed contribution starts from RF checkout system design and RF measurements of ISRO's launch vehicles PSLV, GSLV 2 and 3. Rich experience in the RF characterization of satellite onboard antenna and payload characterization of ISRO satellites. Responsible for world-class state-art of facility of compact range for exclusive satellite RF characterization. Successfully contributed 35 spacecraft RF characterization and its measurements with various innovative methodology, which includes the Mar Orbitar mission, Mangalyaan, IRNSS spacecraft and unviewable antenna, etc. Experience in the RF characterization of high throughput satellite with multi-beam technology and more than 150 number of antennas. Had an exclusive experience in the RF characterization and analysis of radons and precision approach radar with electronics beam steering. Experience in the design of metamaterial based antennas for navigation applications and design of ultra wideband helix antennas for satellite measurement applications. He has published more than 35 papers in various conference and journal and received 3 best paper awards. He is the senior member in IEEE and life member with 8 technical bodies, eight technical bodies. That is Astronautical Society of India in India, Antenna Test and Measurement Society, India, Society of EMC Engineers, India, Association for Scientists and Faculties, India, Indian Society of System for Science and Engineering, India, Instrument Society of India, International Association of Engineers, Hong Kong, National Foundation of Entrepreneurship for Development, India. He has received 3 number of Young and Outstanding Scientist Award from various professional bodies. That is ASDF Best Young Scientist Award in 2016 for the outstanding contribution in the field of engineering and space technology. Best Scientist Award in 2016 from National Foundation of Entrepreneurship Development India. Outstanding Scientist Award in 2016 from Venus International Foundation India. He is the IET International Advisory Committee member, Satellite Communications and Networks, responsible of Joint Secretary, Antenna Test and Measurement Society, India. Successfully organized International Conference of ATMS from 2011 to 2019. And he is the chair and sponsorship and industry relation of IEEE SS12 International Students Project Competition and Maker Fair for the year 2016 to 2019, and also responsible of member finance committee IEEE IAIM in 2017. Delivered more than 45 technical and motivational talks in various technical forums, conferences and academic institutes. Given an exclusive interview in All India Radio on ISRO Mangalyaan success journey. He is a motivational speaker and science promoter, supported various schools and colleges for various space science related activities. His field of expertise is on microwaves and satellite communications, satellite antenna measurements, design of antennas for satellite testing applications, RF chamber design, near and far field measurements. I welcome you, sir. Now, I request Mr. Purushothaman sir to take over the session.
Okay. Thank you, madam. Thank you so much for the introduction. I am audible?
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, fine. So, a very good morning to all of you. Those who are join this call in this session. It's really a good platform, right, in this pandemic situation to make yourself highly knowledgeable as well as highly technically skilled person. So let me thank Director NIT for this kind of initiative and support for the benefit of the faculties as well as researchers. And also, I want to thank and compliment the convener, Dr. Bhupati Rani, and all the faculty members and the coordinators of the EC department, NIT Pondicherry. So, with this, I'll start my presentation. So, today, my presentation is going to be on antennas for satellite communication. Right, see, so far, I'll just share my presentation. Okay, is it visible? My presentation is able to see?
Yes, sir. It's visible.
Yeah, fine. So today I'm going to talk about the antennas for satellite communication. I'm very sure that so far you have the excellent talk from various experts from the various areas of antenna, which covers from the basics to the all the new technology. But today I'm going to talk about something a different area sector where the antenna and microwave engineering playing a very key role. So without this antenna and microwave engineering in this particular field, it is really it's not possible to fulfill the technology. So this RF and microwave and antenna technology is very important in the area of space and defense sector. So you can see when you're taking any kind of space technology as well as the defense technology, the RF and microwave playing a very important role. That systems are really very crucial for all kind of design and a requirement point of view. So in that aspect, I thought of bringing you some of the very interesting points in antennas for satellite communication, as well as I want to give some of the importance to that design aspects and how the criticality of antennas is in the space technology. So all these points I just want to cover in this presentation. Also, some of the real-time experience what I had during my tenure here, as well as I want to emphasize some of the very important aspects which has to be taken care by any antenna designer when you are looking to that antenna design part. So today, the first slide, like imagination is more important than knowledge. Knowledge is limited, imagination encircles the world, Albert Einstein. So this particular quote is match 100% matches for microwave and antenna engineering. So we have to imagine more. We have to we cannot see anything in the physical way. We have to give more imagination. So that shows this particular quote. So with that, I'll start my presentation. So I thought I will cover in three areas. Like I'll start with the antennas and satellites, some of the overviews. So which gives some basic idea of what kind of requirement for satellite and its antennas. And then I'll talk about the spacecraft antennas, which is the basic designs as well as the other aspects on the satellite antennas. And finally, I'll just talk about the satellite antenna measurements as well as the general measurements, which is very essential, very important, like how the design we are doing. And then finally, a couple of slides will talk about some of the artificial intelligence based case studies. Then I'll conclude my presentation. So when you're talking about the basics of antenna and satellite antennas, introduction to antenna, this slide everybody knows. The antenna is the interface between the transmission line and space. So IEEE definitions, the antenna and are aerial as a mean of radiating and receiving radio waves. So this is the general IEEE definition everybody knows. Antennas are passive device and antennas are reciprocal. So this is the basics of antennas, what generally we used to read in all the common books. So when you're talking about antenna, immediately what are the things we have to look into that is the antenna parameters. So when you are designing any antenna, first we have to see that the antenna parameter, what is the requirement in the aspects of parameters. Start from the radiation pattern of power beam with directivity, gain, efficiency, AARP, and polarization, and then actual ratio, input impedance, return loss, bandwidth, and efficient aperture. So these are the list of parameters when you're talking about the antenna design. So, but some of the very critical parameter of the antenna, we should look into that before designing any antenna or before finalizing for any applications. So when you're starting for design of antenna, you should do from the application point of view, what application you are going to use. So based on that, we can select the antenna, the required antenna. If it is a for longer communication, long distance communication, go for high gain antenna. If it is a shorter communication, low gain antenna. If it is a wider communication, go for ohmic kind of pattern. If it is very radar communication or radar technology, go for highly sharp beam antennas. And if it is again kind of navigation applications, go for a circular polarized antenna. So this kind of applications are there. So based on the application, each antenna designer should select the antenna, which kind of antenna we can go with in the optimized way of design. Yeah, when you're talking about the polarization of antenna, anyway, yeah, everybody knows that the IEEE definition says the trace of the tip of E field vector as a function of time seen from behind. So when you are seeing from the behind, what is the E field tip trace that shows the polarization of waves? So we know there are two kind of polarization. One is the linear polarization, another one is circular polarization. Talking about a linear polarization, yeah, we have vertical polarization as well as horizontal polarization. The vertical polarization, the E field vector will be vertical with respect to the ground plane, and when you're talking about horizontal polarization, it will be in the parallel to the ground plane. Similarly, when you're talking about circular polarization, we have a left-hand circular polarization and right-hand circular polarization. Based on the rotation of the resultant E vector, which decides the whether it is a right angle or rectangular circular polarization. You can see in this particular, we can see in this particular slide, it shows that, right, this is the polarization of waves, how it is propagates. So when you're talking about, again, right, classification of antennas, it is a wide kind of antennas are there, and it is dipoles, monopoles, biconical antennas, loop antennas, helix antennas. So there are different kind of wire type antennas. Some of the antennas wire type we are using for satellite applications, and not all. Similarly, aperture type antennas, yeah, mostly we are doing aperture type antennas that starts from horn and open waveguide, reflector antennas, slat antennas, microstrip antennas. And again, based on the polarization, linear, circular, and again the number of arrays we can talk. Again the band, narrow band and broadband, again transmitting and receive. Based on this, the functionality as well as the physical structure, we can classify the antenna. So when you are selecting antenna for the satellite is quite different from the ground application or for any other applications, because there are multiple constraints is there to select antenna for the satellite communication for our defense or the aerospace communications, aerospace applications. So because we have to see that the physical structure, how it is going to be there in the satellite, what are the other parameters, all those aspects has to be reviewed properly before selecting antenna for a satellite applications. So when you are talking about satellite, what are the types of satellites, so that we can understand what is the real requirement of the antenna as satellite point of view. So when you're talking about this kind of types, right, there are three types are there, the satellite. So it starts from the geostationary or geosynchronous satellite. These satellites will be in the orbit of geosynchronous or geostationary orbit, which is 36,000 kilometers above from the Earth. And it is like it is this particular satellite will be in the geostationary, which is in the plane of equator. Exactly at the equator plane, we have a orbit 36,000 kilometers above from Earth in circular format, that is called geosynchronous or geostationary orbit. So here the why it is called geostationary in the sense. So the geostationary in the sense, geo means Earth. So the satellite what I'm putting in the geostationary or geosynchronous orbit, that will rotating, or that will be in the same velocity of Earth rotates. So the Earth will be rotating in particular velocity. The same velocity the satellite also will rotates, so that always the satellite will always look to a particular ground segment or ground sector of the Earth. Suppose the satellite is there somewhere on in the orbit, so the antenna of the satellite will look in the particular location of the Earth. That will be always maintained constant, stationary, so that it can communicate throughout the 24/7. It is like going a car with equal speed. You will feel that both people are stationary, but not like so. So they are moving together with equal speed or equal velocity. So similar kind of approach here. So the satellite always is stationary with respect to the ground station, but both we are moving. Ground also it's rotating, so satellite also it's rotating. So it's very much useful for the all these communication satellite what we are looking into for various applications like broadcast, other communication, point-to-point communication. So all communication satellite will be placed in this particular orbit, geostationary orbit. This is called geo satellites. So the next one is called medium Earth orbit. That's the orbit is around 5,000 to 15,000 kilometer. So most of the navigation satellite like GPS, Galileo, and GLONASS kind of satellites, it is placed in this orbit. So so far no Indian satellite placed in the MEO orbit. So the final orbit is again called low Earth orbit. So this is around 500 to 1,000 kilometers above from Earth. So all our remote sensing and weather report, remote sensing, weather satellites and intelligence satellites, all kind of remote sensing satellites and all will be placed in this orbit. This will be rotating the Earth 500 to 1,000 kilometer in the orbit. So it can able to cover the satellite per day around 16 times, so that the full Earth can be covered in per day. So we can able to get the exact data of weather or whatever method you want to see the Earth. So that this is a three kind of satellites we are using. Based on the satellite, we will select the antenna. Based on the antenna, we have to design the respective applications. Okay, so this particular slide shows, right, what I discussed in the previous slide. So I can see here, right, this starts from the telecommunication applications. So we have the first picture shows the 3-4 pictures having the different kind of aperture parabolic antenna. It is basically a communication antenna which is there in geo orbit. And down the picture you can see that, right, the navigation satellite which gives the navigation of for the human application, navigation and tracking applications. You can see some of the circular based antenna. You can see in that picture, right, you can able to see some circular polarized arrays and satellites. On top you can see the Earth observation. Again we have various Earth observation satellite for the observation applications. Yeah, when you're talking about again, this particular slide shows that what is the importance of antenna design when you are talking about a satellite communication. So there are multiple satellites in orbit already existing. If you are going for a new satellite launch, that will be placed adjacent to the present satellites, at present existing satellite in the orbit. So what is happening? The interference between this satellite to satellite or ground station to satellite, it will happen if your antenna is not designed properly. So we have to design our antenna such a way that, right, the interference should not happen. the particular frequency of operations, what we are intended for particular satellite should work properly for that, and the signal should be isolated from the other satellites. So there only the particular one concept coming is cross-pole isolation, which we'll be discussing in the subsequent slides. So in this particular slide, we have a International Telecommunication Union Global Forum, which is having all the details of globally all the safe spacecraft, so that they will see when you are going for a new satellite in the orbit. They'll see the various satellite in orbit already existing. So what frequency you can use, what polarization you can go ahead, and what kind of band you can use. This all kind of details will be reviewed, and it will be given approval from this ITU, International Telecommunication Union, so that it have a record of all the satellites in orbit, as well as to avoid the unnecessarily interference with the various countries. And yeah, this slide shows the satellite transponders with antenna coverage. Right, satellite is basically an electronics circuit, electronic system which is in the orbit. In that, the major portion of electronics system is called satellite transponder. So what it's doing, right? Satellite transponder is basically having a receive antenna in the spacecraft, as well as it is having kind of a processing electronic circuits, and it is having a transmit antenna back. So what it will do, it will take, you can see in the first picture, so it takes the information and goes various system processing, and finally it goes to the high power amplifier for the transmission, and it goes to the transmitting antenna from the ground station. So the signal will reach to the receive antenna of the satellite. So you can see here the performance of the receive antenna should be such a way that they can able to get very, very low signal. In the case of geo communication satellite, the path loss of the satellite will be in the order of minus 200 dB. You just imagine minus 200 dB, how much power loss, minus 192, minus 200 dB of loss, it is there in this distance. So you have to work for that. Based on that, right, our transmission power has to increase, as well as the receiving antenna should have high sensitive capacity and a highly good figure of merit, what you call G by T, gain by temperature ratio, that's called figure of merit of the receive antenna. That should be in a good number, so that they can able to detect a very, very low level signal, it can able to process. So that there the challenge of receiving antenna designs plays very, very important role. So once the signal goes to the satellite inside, so we have a satellite down converter, again it down converts, the signal will be again amplified inside the satellite with amplifier, and again it transmit back to the ground. Again the same scenario is there. So you have to see this transmitting antenna should have such a huge gain, and it should have the very good gain, beam width, and requirements, so that you can able to properly transmit the signal to the ground, so that the ground terminal should not get affected because of the lower performance of the satellite in orbit. Because once satellite goes to the orbit, if you want to do any rework, it cannot be possible. So we have to do thorough and very, very critical review in the design aspect, as well as the validation aspect. So here the transmitting antenna is giving a signal, so that you can able to get a excellent signal at the ground without any interruption. So you can able to get the information at the output. So you can see here the best example, you can see our DTH antenna. This DTH antenna again able to get very, very low signal to your TV, and you can see that you can see here you can see here the down the this satellite is having a different kind of coverage. That down the picture you can see. So each satellite having a coverage kind of things. That coverage in the sense the RF signal where exactly it is covering to the ground. So that's the coverage. You can see the multiple satellites having a multiple covering area. It's like kind of circle where only the RF signal will come and cover it. So that's called antenna coverage. Okay. So far I've just discussed about some of the basics of antenna as well as the requirement of antennas for satellite and types of satellites. So now we will go through the real satellite antennas and the related design aspects here. So we'll start with satellite antennas. So I was discussed in the earlier first slide or second slide the various types of antennas. In that I talked about the aperture antenna. When you are seeing the satellite communication, the most of the satellite what we are using, all the satellites are using this aperture kind of antenna. The main reason of this aperture antenna is uh, are the gain requirements, because see we have to communicate the signal very far, around 36,000 kilometer. So definitely we should have high gain in the order of minus 35 dB to 40 dB in the order. So in the planar or other kind of antennas, it is very difficult to achieve such a huge number of gain. So obviously we have to go for the aperture kind of antenna. And in that aperture kind of antenna, parabolic reflector is one of the very key antenna, whether all the space agencies are using that antenna, including our Indian Space Agency is also using the same kind of antenna. You can see here the aperture type antenna in that parabolic, right? See, the feed will be placed on the focus of the parabola, so that whatever energy comes illuminates the parabolic surface, curvature surface, that will be focused in the focus point where the feed will be placed. So the parabolic reflector having two units, one is called feed, one is called reflector. So the reflector will reflect the RF energy and it will be giving all the signal to the focus. So that is the main use of the parabolic reflector where we are using. And in fact, we are using for all the ground terminal also parabolic. You can see your DTH also is parabolic in nature. And you can see all the ground station also will have the this kind of parabolic. You can see the third picture, the last picture shows the directional gain, right? So it compared with the isotropic radiation pattern, see the gain is going huge in one direction. So that is advantage of this aperture kind of antenna. So most of the satellites we are using this aperture kind of antennas. So here we can see the same aperture kind of antenna. We'll have apart from this aperture kind of antenna, we have multiple antenna with having a various antenna beam techniques. So first, generally we will use some applications is global beam. That means the antenna of the satellite will cover entire globe. That's called global beam antennas. We are using in some applications, and some applications we are using beams antenna. In the sense, we can cover a particular land by a spot of beams. So two beams can be covered with a particular location of the earth. So that's called spot beam antennas. And the third one is again, right, we can use some of the very rare satellite applications. Phased array antenna, it is having a different beams, so that the beam can be steered using the various electronics beam steering techniques. So also they will have the multi spot beam techniques and scanning beam techniques in the phased array antenna. And finally we can using some of the applications like orthogonal polarized beams. The sense, so the antenna will have the same frequency of operation, but it is in orthogonal polarization. That's what I explained in the initial slide. The polarization is very important point. So when you are talking about the polarization, so we can use the both orthogonal polarization H and B for the same frequency for the same band, so that right you can double the bandwidth requirements. So that same frequency can be given one person for H polarization for the operation. You can give the other person for the V polarization of the operation. So by that orthogonal polarized beam, we can able to double the bandwidth requirement. So we have discussed about the aperture type antenna and parabolic and right various beams of antenna. And here you can see what are the satellite communication antenna design depends on the service. So based on the service also we can classify the antennas. That starts from the fixed satellite service, what we are using for some applications. Again, direct broadcast satellite service and mobile satellite service and personal communication service. So based on the various, depending on the ground service, So we can design, we can select our antenna. Based on that, we can do our own design for the particular service. So here, actually, the beams from the satellite, it will be in circular in nature, but after some time, what we did, we have changed the beam nature into circular into shaped beam antennas. So that shaped beam antennas will have the shaping such a way that it cover only the required mainland. For example, the satellite from the orbit, it covers the India. So India is in circular manner. It is in some of random shape. So if you are using a circular beam, what is happening? The energy unnecessarily wasted in the sea and marine area. The no users are there. So what we thought, we will, instead of doing that kind of circular beam, we will focus all the energy towards the required mainland so that we can able to cover the full mainland. So that is the reason that shaped beam antennas come into the picture. The design is finalized, and it's able to cover only the like Indian coverage. Exactly, it can able to cover the India map. So those kind of contoured beam, shaped beam antennas also we started using. So what are the key performance objective for this kind of antennas when you're talking is, so maximize the minimum coverage area, diversity, cross pole. Again, I'm talking about the maximum gain should be taken care, and the cross pole isolation with a coverage of 33 dB. So the cross pole isolation of the particular antenna should be in the order of uh, minus 33 dB. What is that minus 33 dB? In a sense, with respect to the co and cross pole, the cross pole isolation in the order of minus 33 dB difference. So it won't interfere the other satellite communication. Again, the satellite pointing error impact performance, because satellite, the beam is looking towards the earth from the orbit. So because of the other reasons, because of the space reason, space is having multiple effects, right? So there's a chance of satellite drifting from the particular location. So when it is trying to drift, the satellite pointing accuracy also will go. So the beam will move the ground. So those pointing error also should taken care such a way that it should not give any kind of big deviation during the satellite operations. Yeah, and this particular slide shows that, right, antenna parameter requirements. This is really important. This four parameters is very much essential for satellite design, antenna design. It is, one is the 3 dB beam width. Again, the pattern, how the pattern cut is looks, how the 3 dB value is coming. It should be very sharper beams. If you want high gain, again the beam will be very narrow. It should be very sharper. So very sharper means in the order of 1 degree, 2 degree of beam width. So when you are designing for any other ground applications, for the mobile applications, we will design somewhere in 45 degree or 70 degree of beam width. So, but you see here in the order of 2 degree, 1 degree, 0.7 degree also in some cases we are going. You just imagine the 0.7 degree of beam width, how it is sharp from the ground as well as from the satellite. So we have to see that very accurately. We have to see that the requirements. Again, the cross pole isolation. You can see the picture. The first picture shows the shaped beam antenna. I told, right, here you can see the some of the covered using a shaped beam antenna. The red color line shows exactly the RF energy covers from the satellite. The energy won't go away from this red color. So only that portion will be covered. This is called shaped beam antennas. Again, the side lobe, you can see here, side lobe isolation should be very no, adequate, so that, right, it won't interfere with the other satellites. And in fact, when you're talking about radar communication, again, this side lobe still the stringent requirement, because radar communication, we have to communicate the written pulse we have to take. For that, right, we should have the side lobe is very low level, so that the written can be taken without any ambiguity. And then the final one is cross pole isolation. What I explained, you can see the third picture, the cross pole isolation shows in this pattern. There is a copole that is having a major lobe. There is a down the line, there is a cross pole is having very low level. So we can see on axis the difference between the copolarization to cross polarization. What is isolation? This isolation should be required in the order of 30 to 35 dB minimum. Okay, here when you are talking about, again, the reflector antenna, the same parabolic what we are talking, the peculiar one of the case I took in the frequency band of 2.1 around the S band. And then you can see the specification is beamwidth is 2 degree, the cross pole level is 20 dB, but in some cases, most of the cases, we required 35 dB. And you can see the peak gain again 30 dB and above. The polarization is circular and the other specifications. So reflector antennas are used in the spacecraft to meet the high gain requirements required to establish RF communication link at deep space mission. In some particular missions, right, we have to communicate in the deep space mission. So the figure, particular down the figure, I just want to highlight. This particular this is a Mangalyaan satellite. What you are seeing, and yeah, everybody knows, right? Mangalyaan is one of the pride mission of Indian space program. In fact, yesterday, 24th of September, the 6th year completed the Mangalyaan in Martian orbit successfully. And you can see here this particular antenna, one antenna, blue color antenna is there. So this kind of antennas is having a 45 degree of gain, S-band gain, and it can able to communicate in millions kilometers. So to the Martian orbit, you just imagine, right, how much accurate design and evaluation is required for this kind of missions. So when you're talking about the deep space mission, the sense if you're going to the interplanetary mission, we should have the best antenna design so that you won't miss the RF communication link. If you're missing the RF communication link, you cannot be able to track the satellite. It will go out from the your mission control. So that is very, very important. This RF link, establishing RF link and maintaining RF link in particularly deep space mission is very, very critical. It is like guiding a kite with a thread, right? The thread, if you are not able to properly guide, the kite will go somewhere because of various other atmospheric tracks and air tracks. Exactly similar situation here. We can have to guide this kind of satellites through instead of through RF link. The RF link should not interrupt for any time. It should always establish. So this kind of critical requirement we have did, and you can see here the Martian orbit. I just want to highlight here the importance is the Martian orbit in millions kilometers from Earth, right? When you are transmitting RF signal, it takes 14 minutes to reach to the Martian orbit. Similarly, the communication from the Martian orbit again come back to the Earth, it takes 14 minutes. So turnaround time around half an hour to 40 minutes, the communication delay. So you just think, right, how we have to do this kind of activities proactively so that, right, you can able to communicate and you can able to properly guide the satellite to the Martian orbit. So here particular this kind of missions, really these antenna systems are playing very, very crucial role. If 5 minutes of interruption may destroy the full mission, right? So when you're talking about again deep space mission, we'll have the real challenges, and high gain antenna what we are using by offset reflector, because what we did, we are not putting the feed exactly at the axis, we are slightly giving an offset so that the performance will not degrade. And the feed system consists of horn antenna with septum polarizer. So what is the feed? Basically nothing but feed is a small and horn antenna which is having a septum polarization so that we can able to get the dual circular polarization at the output. Yeah. And when you're talking about again reflector antenna design parameters, so these are the basic reflector antenna design parameters. The diameter of the reflector, again focal length of the reflector from the focus to the parabola, and again offset, and then feed spacing. So if we are placing multiple feeds in the focal plane, again the feed spacing is very much important. You have to look into that, and the view angle and beam spacing, beam deviation, these factors, everything decides the performance of the full reflector, right? Whatever you want to achieve in the requirement point of view, in the performance point of view, this all reflector key quantities, key parameters are playing. So by playing these parameters, you can able to design the real required high performance antennas for spacecraft applications. So what type of software we are using? The sense generally what other for other simulations, everybody aware that, right, we are having a CST, we are having HFSS and so on, but particularly this kind of reflector antenna design, here a specialized software is called TICRA software. this software is used to simulate the radiation pattern of reflector antenna, as well as you can do various analysis of the antenna. Okay, this slide shows that, right, some of the softwares for antenna design and simulation. So everybody knows in some of these softwares, HFSS and CST Studio and the ensembles, the E3D. You can see this all the softwares you may be using, and except this TICRA only meant for reflector analysis. You can see the fifth column. TICRA is only for reflector antenna analysis and shaping and optimization. So this is a major software for this kind of designs what exclusively we are using. And of course, we have multiple other software also to design various antennas and microwave components. And here you see how the reflector antenna design we are doing. I just given one overall design procedure, right? So this particular TICRA is having a software called GRASP as well as CHAM, right? So this GRASP, the first figure shows that, right? This GRASP software will initial reflector design. We will use this GRASP software. Again, the feed design will be carried out in this CHAMP. That's again one subset of TICRA. So this both reflector and feed together will be given to the again GRASP software for the performance evaluation of full reflector and feed system. Then finally, we'll get the CAD files with the reflector geometry. So this CAD file will be given for the fabrications. And you can see how generally we will optimize this kind of, because we need multiple time of optimization. It is not like one time you do it and go ahead, because there are multiple input will come. Suddenly the requirement will change. Suddenly there is a multiple inputs from various other systems. And that is really tough. And one more thing is here you have to very much look into that, raise the antenna performance, because the satellite antenna is going to be a satellite body with antenna. It is not alone antenna is going to perform in orbit. So when you are designing for any antenna for the ground, right, when our institutes or academic institute, they will design, they will see only this antenna point of view. But when you are talking about the full system, right, definitely the antenna performance will deteriorate. So we have to see that, right, with respect to the integrated with other system, how your antenna is behaving, that is very much important, because antenna alone nobody can use. It is a full system has to be functional. Then only you will get the full system. So the similar point here also we can see here, the antenna of the satellite should be integrated with the satellite, so that the antenna performance should not degrade because of the other satellite body, because satellite body effect will be there in the antenna. Since antenna is the RF device, and the satellite body is a metallic box, definitely we'll have some kind of performance degradation. But nevertheless, we have to take care those kind of performance degradation, and right, we have to design a best antenna. You can see in the antenna performance optimization. So we will define a goal, what kind of goal is required, and then we will optimize using the software. And then we will show that reflector surface definitions, then what are the contour plots I want, contour in the sense the coverage plot I want. Then we will evaluate the contour plots with respect to what I received from the software. If it is good, and then we will go for the other AARP GYT plots. We will see the next required parameters, whether it is okay, then acceptable for the applications. Then we'll go for the fabrication. If it is not there, again we'll go to the design goals. Again we will change the goals, and then again we'll give the different geometry, different feed modeling, and then again we will check that whether we have achieved the required optimized antenna. So this is the way, right, we will fine tune the design so that we'll get the best out of it for the operational requirements. The third picture you can see here, the just GUI of the TICRA. You can see one reflector with the feed is there. There are multiple options are there. You can just have a look. This TICRA is available in online. I think there is 1 month free license is there. If those who are interested, you can have a look into that. Yeah, this is very important. I just want to emphasize here, right? When you are designing for any ground application, ground antenna, so you are not bothering about any other parameters. Only you will concentrate the antenna performance. Okay, I should get this. I should get the required parameters in the aspects of the radiation pattern or the gain or the axial ratio or return loss kind of. But when you are talking about space antenna, it's really apart from the RF parameters, we have to see other compatibility issues, other challenges also. There's huge challenges are there when you are designing for the space applications. The first one starts with vacuum compatibility. So outgassing material. See what's happening when you are selecting a material for the fabrication such a way that any gas trapped into the in that particular material. So when it is goes to the highly vacuum conditions, that gas will try to come out. That will create a crack, or that will create a bend or any kind of crack in the antenna. So that will deteriorate the total performance, or sometimes it will be a different. So that is really challenging. We have to see that it should not be outgassing material as low as possible. And again, RF multifaction is very much important because we are handling high power carrier in the satellite. So when you are doing a high power handling, there will be a chance of getting right electron from this material, and it try to go for secondary emission, then it try to again gives degradation on the device of the antennas or waveguides what we are using in this space. So this RF multifaction, again we have to see it is very much dangerous. And again the third one is ionizing radiation. There are radiation particles are in the space. This radiation will definitely affect the performance of the antenna as well as the satellite. We have to look into that very seriously. Yeah. So again, when you are coming to the fourth one is again thermal requirements, right? When you are going to the space, we have a huge thermal variation starts from minus 170 degree to plus 170 degree. It is really a big number. So definitely the particular antenna device or antenna material should able to tolerate this kind of thermal deflections. If the thermal deflections comes, right, definitely there will be a variations in the profile of designed antenna. The profile of designed antenna varies. Obviously, the performance will go bad. So you have to see of thermal compatibility, and again RF radiations will be there. The sun and various planets having radiations. We have to see that how the RF radiations can be taken care during the fabrication and performance validation also. And the other one is the vibration load. So during the launch phase, right, there are multiple vibrations will transfer to the satellite. Also, it transfers to the antenna, which is attached to the satellite. So that kind of vibration loads it has to tolerate. That's very much important because once a launch vehicle lift off is happened, right, you cannot stop the launch vehicle. So because of that vibration, something because of vibration load, some other in a portion of the antenna or something got deteriorated or damaged, then you cannot use the antenna in the space. That's really dangerous. So we have to qualify those kind of vibration loads. For that, we have a different kind of vibration test facility with us. We can go ahead with whatever kind of vibration, the real condition we can simulate in the ground, and we can qualify. And again, the environment, what I told is like it is a metallic body. We'll have the solar panels and other appendages in the satellite, so that will degrade the antenna radiation patterns as well as the performance. So we have to ensure that, right, everything is okay. And then ESD, electrostatic discharge, is again very dangerous for the antenna point of view. It can damage the antenna, so you should take care when you are fabricating. The ESD should not give any kind of problem. Again, when it goes to the space, we'll have some kind of charging issues. The charging issues will give a kind of degradation. So those ESD has to be taken care. And lifetime is 15 years and beyond. So we have to think it is not like just 1 year or 2 years. The satellite antenna should work for 15 years, since satellite lifetime is 15 years. So these are the basic, very important challenges when you are designing a spacecraft antenna. You have to see this kind of problems. And so when you're designing an antenna, basically I feel personally an antenna designer is not only good in antenna RF alone. Little bit they should have the good knowledge in mechanical as well as the material property also, because since the antenna performance based on this all aspects, all domain, it starts mechanical or material property and the RF. So these all things are together, it is there. So all the things having playing important role in this spacecraft challenges, antenna challenges in space. Yeah, this particular slide shows that the various payload antenna which I discussed in the first slide. We have a transponder. The transponder is nothing but what we will call is payload. That payload will have multiple antennas. That antennas you are seeing here in this picture, the two parabolic reflector is there. So generally, what kind of antennas we are using is parabolic reflector offset antenna, and there is one more antenna what generally we are using is dual gridded reflector antenna. And what is a dual gridded reflector antenna? In the sense, we have two reflector in a single shell. There is a single there will be a single antenna. It is having a two shells. The front shell will do the transmit function. The rear shell will do the receive function. By doing this kind of dual gridded reflector antenna, you can able to do in a single structure both antennas, I mean transmit and receive antenna. That's called dual gridded reflector antenna. And then that is for communication satellite point of view. When you come into the navigation point of view, navigation satellite point of view, we have to go for circular polarized antenna since it's a navigation application. So there we generally use for helix array only. Generally we are using aperture shared helix array, and then UHF patch antenna for some of the antennas, some of the satellites, again some helix antenna for small applications. These are the various payload antennas what we are using in the satellite for the payload applications, for the user applications. Apart from that, right, spacecraft is having another kind of antenna. It is called telecommand and tracking antennas. It's called TTC antenna. This telecommand and tracking antenna is major to control and to monitor the health of the satellites from the orbit, from the space. So here, this kind of antennas, it never come to the user point of view. User never use this antenna link. User only use the payload links for the communication. But this kind of antennas for only controlling and telemetry applications. So our ISRO is having various control stations located in Bangalore as well as in Karnataka Master Control Facility, ASAN. So different locations we will try to control the satellite. This Bangalore control is controls the remote sensing satellite. This ASAN center controls the communication satellite. So we can say here for that we are using different telecom and tracking antenna. Again, you can see this picture shows one small helix antenna. We are generally use helix kind of antennas for these applications. Here we will use a low gain antenna, mid gain antenna, high gain antenna based on the various missions. Similarly, here again, the telecommand tracking command applications, we will use some antennas for data transmission system for some applications, and some antennas for satellite positioning system. Because so if you want to get a position of a satellite, we will take the position through some other satellite, navigation satellite. So for that, we are using some kind of antennas. So that's called satellite positioning system. So for this kind of application, we are going for a circular and mostly helix kind of antennas for tracking and telecommand applications and data transmission also. You can see here the next one is the major the one of the satellite what we used, phased array antenna. You might have heard about some for the experts speakers from phased array antenna beam steering application also. So in this particular application, this phased array antenna is very much important, right? So phased array antenna basically it steers the beam electronically without any mechanical movement. There are two methods is there basically to steer the beam. One, physically we can move the antenna so that beam can be steered. But the second one is you can through the electronic steering technique we can able to steer the beam. Where is the real requirement comes? Yeah, this is particularly in some spacecraft, the ground station has to communicate to the satellite. So when satellite goes in some other location, the beam is not able to look the ground station. So the beam is looking somewhere else. So that time we have to move the beam towards the ground station. So for that, this kind of phased array antenna is used. So the beam will be steered to the particular ground station by using electronic beam steering technique. So that we are used in some applications. of course, this phased array beam steering is majorly used on radar applications, right? We can able to track the enemy aircraft, enemy flights using by scanning the beams simply without moving the antenna by electronically. And some of the other communication, wireless communication, also the phased array antennas is mostly useful. So this particular slide shows it, right, that future multi-beam satellite, that's what we are started doing. So far, right, last 1 decade we are using a regular FSS satellite. It is having only one single beam from the orbit, so that it can cover only the single coverage. But when you want to go for high throughput satellites, what is called high throughput in the sense, the data handling satellites, if you want to transmit your internet data in the order of gigabits per second, we have to go for high gain and high throughput satellites. In that case, instead of going for a single beam, so we are trying to split the beams into multiple spot beams, so that it can be efficiently covered the entire geographical locations. That is the motive. So that is the future multi-beam sat we are working, and we have couple of launch we did in the multi-beam satellites, but still going on, the higher multiple number of beams are increasing more and more. If increasing number of beams more and more, you will get very efficient way of throughput satellites. Talking about smart cities in future, this kind of satellite is going to play a very important role. You can see the smart cities, what I was talking, future satellite application, right, starts from IoT connectivity. You can go from emergency and safety. All kind of applications can be done through high throughput satellites. This really it's going to change the entire communication technology in a different way. This kind of high throughput satellites come into the picture in the operational. So that is very important. Here, this kind of high throughput satellites, again, what I discussed, this antenna requirement, the antenna design is playing an extraordinary role. So we have to see that how it is efficiently designed. Okay. So so far I discussed about the spacecraft antennas and the designs of the various antennas, what we used, what are the softwares, all the aspects we discussed. Now this this portion I'm going to discuss about some of the measurements techniques. Right? See, generally in antenna design engineers, see, they will bother about only antenna design. They are not much showing concentration on antenna measurements and validations. But I feel this measurements antenna validation is very important for any RF antenna engineers, and especially when you're talking about space applications antenna design, this antenna evaluation and antenna measurements and characterization is very important. As I said earlier, once a satellite goes to the orbit, you cannot do any rework, you cannot do any correction in the antenna performance or antenna design. So it is once for all it goes, the mission is over. If it's not working, it's not meeting your specification, then there is no point of spending that much and putting a satellite in orbit. So we have to evaluate these spacecraft antennas as well as spacecraft in ground in such a way that the exact in orbit performance simulations you have to do at ground and you have to validate. Not only that, other antennas what you are doing in institutions also should give emphasis on this kind of measurement and validation with high accuracy. Then only we can ensure that whether whatever you are designed exactly, it is coming out as a product. That is very important. So for that, definitely each and everyone should know about the antenna measurement techniques and the related various mechanism which is required for the antenna measurement and validations. Yeah, when you're talking about antenna measurement technique, so first we'll know about what are the antenna radiations. When antenna radiations, what are the regions are there, that we will discuss, and further we'll talk about the measurement techniques. There are three types of field dominates in different regions in space around the antenna based on the radiation characteristics. So that it's called, one is called reactive field radiation region, then is called radiating near field region, one is called far field region. The immediate vicinity of antenna region, the field are predominant, that is predominantly it is reactive fields. So that's called reactive. There is no formation of energy itself, the field itself. We cannot able to differentiate the E and H fields, because once there is no E and H fields, we cannot say that there is proper radiation, proper electromagnetics wave. So there it is not formed exactly. So that is the region called reactive field. That is from 0 to pi by 2 pi, the distance by the equations lambda by 2 pi. So lambda is operating wavelength of this antenna, and then you can find what is the reactive field distance. Definitely, you cannot get any kind of radiation in that reactive field. When you are moving ahead from the reactive field, yeah, we have a field is called radiating near field. That's called Fresnel zone. That is from lambda by 2 pi to 2d square by lambda. That is a range where this reactive field exists. There, yeah, where this radiation field predominant, but the angular field distribution depends on the distance from the antenna. So in that near field region, right, we can able to at least start this near field spherical energy. It is started. So from there, we can able to start the measurements. We can do it a measurements in near field, and then you can convert it into far field. And then after that near field, there is a field is called far field. That's called Fraunhofer zone. The range is from 2d square by lambda beyond. It is called far field region. So when you are talking about any antenna, the radiation pattern or whatever parameters we are talking is valid from the far field only. When you're talking about near field, it is not valid. That's why when you are simulating in EM tools like CST or HFSS, they are giving far field parameters. So in the far field parameters only, you are getting your radiation patterns or axial ratio, whatever parameter you are checking at the software. It is calculated in far field. So nothing is calculated in near field or reactive field. So everybody should know that the far field is a 2d square by lambda is a minimum criteria. So d is the diameter of the antenna, lambda is the operating wavelength. Beyond the far field, right, we have the plane waves. The RF is having a very planarity, so that we have the exact whatever designed parameter you want, you will get it. Okay, in this here you can see the near field measurement system. So we have discussed in the previous slide, there are three regions, right? Reactive field, anyway, we cannot use it. We're talking about near field region. Yeah, we can do it, the measurements in near field region and practically. So near field in the region, we can have some kind of probing techniques. The probe can move and the near field range, that distance, it can able to scan entire aperture of the antenna when it is transmitting, and you can record the values, and based on that you can able to get the measured data. So the phase and amplitude of this particular near field can be recorded by a small probe, and then finally you can transform this near field data into far field data using some analytic technique. Generally, the analytic technique what we are using is fast Fourier transform. So when you are doing a fast Fourier transform, automatically your near field measured data will be converted into far field data. So in all the academic and most of the institutes or most of the laboratory will have the RF measurement chamber. You would have seen, right, that all the chambers, 99% it will be near field measurement chamber. So you are measuring a near field data and you are converting using a software and far field data. You can see down the picture, the near field measured data, how it looks, and then the converted data, how it looks. See, the near field measured data, there is no clarity of major lobes, side lobes, and all the parameters. But after converting it to far field, we can able to get the major lobe and various side lobes. So that is the reason we have to convert the far field measurements to the near field measurements to the far field measurements. Otherwise, the measurement is not very correct what we are getting at near field. So there are various types of antenna. Based on the antenna, we can select the various kind of near field measurement systems. This particular slide shows that there are various methods of types of near field measurement systems available in market. So one is called planar near field system, one is called cylindric near field system, spherical near field system. So the planar near field system, the probe, whatever measurement probe we are having, that will be moving in a plan, in the plane of the planar nature. It is in one single plane. So that is the difference with respect to cylindrical and spherical. The most of the directional antenna, they gain more than 15 dBi and maximum plus or minus 70 degree of beam width. We can use this planar near field. See, again, based on the antenna, we have to change the near field measurement system. And if you want to go for a fan beam antennas and wide side and back lobe antennas, you go for a cylindrical kind of measurement system where you can able to measure the antenna in full cylindrical region. So you will get all the data. And third one is a spherical near field, right? This is one of the advanced near field system. If you are getting this near field, spherical near field, you can able to measure very low gain antenna, very wide beam, omnidirectional antennas, everything. So this kind of three techniques, three scan type techniques generally available at market for various near field measurement. Again, once, as I said in the previous slide, after measurement, you have to transform into far field using a algorithm. So when you're talking about far field, in the couple of slides back, right? So we have told about the minimum range requirement in the order of 2 d square by lambda. So apart from that, we need 2 more parameters to ensure that this is a far field. The signal is in the far field condition. So one is called amplitude taper of the illuminating wavefront. So whatever the energy is transmitting, the energy is coming from the antenna. That taper, that amplitude taper, if you look, so you can see in this first picture, there is a taper is there in the tip. The taper should be in the order of 0.25 dB. If it is beyond that, then your antenna, your the measurement what you are doing, it is not in far field. It is in somewhere in near field. So the next one criteria is again the phase curvature. The phase curvature taper, what you call, of the illuminating wavefront should be in the order of 22.5 degree, pi by 8. That is and the phase point of view, which should be the order of pi by 8. So these two criteria also should match with that in par with 2d square by lambda. So there are 3 conditions for the far field to achieve it. That is, one minimum range distance should be 2d square by lambda. The amplitude taper should be in the order of minus 2.5 dB, and the phase taper in the order of 22.5 degree. So when you're talking, right, when you're talking 2d square by lambda, okay, d is a diameter, we can say if it's a parabolic. If it is a other kind of antennas, other various type of antenna, how to calculate this far field? This point is given in this slide, right? For monopoles or dipoles wired antennas, right, directly we can take the far field in 10 lambda. So what is the operating lambda? You can calculate the frequency, then multiply with 10, you will get the far field distance. And when the case of large reflectors and parabolic antennas, what we discussed, so we have to take the 2d square by lambda. That is the thumb rule for that kind of antennas. And if you're talking about the base station antennas having a height of h, so we, instead of d, we can take h is the parameter, so we can calculate 2h square by lambda. That is the far field requirement for that base station antennas. Yeah. And when you are talking about the measurement, yeah, this measurement cannot be done at open space, because right in the open space there are multiple other problems will come. There will be multiple reflections and all will be there. It should be done in a closed chamber with RF absorbers. So we need an anechoic chamber to carry out this kind of measurements, right? Because the satellite antenna, especially when talking about satellite antenna, the satellite antenna is going to communicate in free space. The free space, there is no reflections because there is no building, there is no metallic surface in space. So it is an open space. So the same kind of test or measurements if you want to validate at ground, right? But the problem is in ground, we will do it closed chamber. So this will have different kind of multiple reflections and diffractions, right? To avoid that, definitely we should put RF absorbers so that this kind of reflections can be arrested. So it give the proper measurement what exactly we need, like the space. So that is the need for RF anechoic chamber. The RF anechoic chamber covered by electromagnetic absorber material that simulate the free space propagations condition due to the absorption of radiations. And what is the advantage? In fact, when you are doing in the RF anechoic chamber, we can do in all weather condition. You can do it. The test. It's a controlled environment, temperature control, cleanliness control. Particularly when you're talking about satellite antenna, when satellite fully fabricated, ready for measurements, ready for characterization, we should have to maintain the temperature, cleanliness. We should maintain highly, because some of the sensors it's highly prone for the cleanliness. So those kind of restrictions are there. So definitely we have to go for RF anechoic chamber with kind of requirements. So it can be used for all weather operations and controlled environment you can use, and it is secured and free from interference. Because if you're doing an outside test, outside RF signal may interfere with your measurements, and you may get some confusion on that. So everything will be clean, will be isolated when you are doing in RF anechoic chamber. So general RF measurement, near field measurement system. Near field measurement system looks like this. You can see the generalized block diagram. There will be a AUT antenna under test table, and there will be a transmitting antenna. So this both transmitting and receive AUT will be taken through the VNA. VNA is like one of the very important instruments for the measurement of antenna. And then this VNA will be controlled through LAN through the controlling computer, and again this will be parallelly controlled to that AUT by a stepper motor through power supply and controller, so that you can able to get a rotation of stepper motor in azimuth, pitch and azimuth and elevation angles, so that you can able to get the both cuts. So this is the generalized block diagram of antenna measurement system, generally what everybody is using here. Yeah, and one special case of measurement technique what I'm going to discuss here is compact antenna test range. So far I discussed about the various field. In that I told that far field is the outcome of antenna far field measurement. So we can do by the near field measurement, you can measure the near field and convert it into far field by using various techniques. But in the case of satellite validation, satellite characterization, right, we need direct far field instead of doing a conversion, because we will have some kind of error that we don't want. So we want the exact direct far field characterization measurement, so that it in par with, or it is in line with the in orbit simulations. Otherwise, in orbit there is no near field; it is directly far field. So same thing we should want to create at the ground. Yeah, for that we have a special kind of state of chamber with us called compact antenna test range. We can able to create a far field directly here without doing any kind of conversions. Right. So how we are doing? See, here you can just calculate the minimum range distance for the 1.5 gigahertz. So the range is 50 meter. Then you just check for 40 gigahertz. The minimum range requirement is 1.1 kilometer. That means the minimum distance between the test antenna to the source antenna to the test antenna, the distance required is 1.1 kilometer at 40 gigahertz. Just imagine 1.1 kilometer is not able to build a chamber in such a big chamber. 1.1 kilometer is a huge distance. So it is not a good idea to build such a big chamber. So for that, what we did, we have got a chamber which is having a simulate this kind of huge far field distance in a compact chamber. That is called compact antenna test range. So this compact antenna test range will give direct far field condition. So you can see here. So there are multiple usage why we are going for this kind of compact test range for space. Characterized all the satellite antennas as well as the payload parameters in radiated mode, and we need a controlled environment. So definitely we should have to go for this kind of antenna, compact antenna test range, which is more accurate also. And basically this kind of chamber will have two reflector, a big sub and main reflector will be there inside the chamber. Using that two reflectors, right, we can able to create this far field condition in a compact chamber. So that is the state of facility what we have with us. The quiet zone what we are having with us currently is 5.5 meter into 5 meter into 8 meter. That is a quiet zone where you can able to test your spacecraft. But the dimension of this chamber is in the order of 30 meter into 20 meter into 16 meter. That is the kind of order what we are having with us. So this is just generalized compact range measurement system. So we have we have a chamber, we have RF absorbers with various, we can see in the picture, there is one white color board. That board is basically a reflector. There will be main and sub reflector, and there's again VNA. There are multiple other units are there to do all full-fledged compact range measurement system. You can able to do the full-fledged test of antenna characterization as well as the satellite payload characterization, which is very, very essential for the RF point of view. Yeah, this is one of the measured pattern of from the compact range. You can see how accurately we are measuring. I just want to give the feel how the measurement results looks. The top blue color signal, you can able to see there is a copole that is having a major lobe and side lobe. Again, the green color you can see that is a cross pole what we measured. So the difference you can see around 40 dB of cross pole isolation. So we can able to measure very high accurate measurements in our chamber. In fact, the gain accuracy of our chamber in the order of minus and the order of 0.2 dB. You can just imagine 0.2 to 0.1 dB order. That is the way we are using, and our bore sight accuracy. That means our angular accuracy in the order of 0.1 degree. That is very, very, very accurate value. Our positioners and our systems are highly accurate, so that we can able to get very, very small variations. Also, any performance degradations happening in the antenna or satellite, we can easily pinpoint and we can solve it in ground. Right? You can see we are using this formula for gain measurement. Down you can see this is called Friis transmission equation. We know the transmitting power and we know the received power. We know the transmitting gain of the antenna. So the unknown parameter is the receiving gain of the antenna. So using this formula, path loss, we have given PR by PT equal to lambda by 4 pi r whole square GT and GR. This equation we can substitute all the values and we can get unknown gain of the antenna. This is the Friis transmission formula what we are using for the gain measurement too. So this is the result what we have achieved from our chamber. Yeah, this is the measured pattern results what we have exactly measured in satellite, in full satellite integrated level. You can see the copole contour. See that blue color lines like India. This covers only the Indian land. It won't cover the other land from the space. And there is one more. The next picture shows the left side. It is the Asian coverage. You can cover the full Asia by the antenna. And the third picture shows the cross pole isolation. So that cross pole signal, it won't interfere India. It will clear the India. So this is the way we can verify that the antenna performance in pattern antenna via pattern, how it looks, how it covers, and how it efficiently designed such a way that it gives the exactly contoured and shaped coverage. You can see. I think down there is the picture is not visible. I put some spot beam contours. Okay, we can see in the next slide. So the contour beams, like small beams, which I showed in the previous slides, there are instead of a single coverage, we'll have multiple dots coverage, so that we can able to cover multiple spot beams. So far I discussed about the measurement techniques. What are the measurement techniques it is available and what is suitable for satellite application, as well as the generalized measurement techniques. Now I will just discuss two cases where we can use this artificial intelligence for the antenna design and applications. So we'll discuss and then I'll conclude my presentation. So you can see here, the one thing I am very much interested and I just want to discuss in this forum is robotic intelligent antenna, right? So what is the funda behind this is, right? So far we discussed about the antenna for various applications and all, but right. So the antenna is fixed for some kind of application, some band of frequency or some requirements. But what is I was just thinking like. We can implement this kind of robotic and artificial intelligence in the antenna design system, so that it can able to give more flexible for us to do any kind of applications without much change. That means the reconfigurable system I'm just discussing about reconfigurable antenna, which can be compressed, expanded, deflated, or inflated, can be useful for satellite communication, military communication, and mobile communication and hostile environment, where you want to, very critical environment where it is there, we can able to do this kind of things here, right? How to do this, I just want to deliberate here. So you just sense the through a sensor, you sense the environment, whether it is a space, is a vacuum environment, or it is a highly different radiation environment, or it is a dark environment. You just find out by the sensor, it is a noisy environment, or it is a highly acoustic environment. So this kind of, or it is like, for example, it's kind of thermal environment. This kind of like environments can be sensed through sensors, and that can be given to an artificial intelligence unit where you have memory, storage, processors, and artificial coding techniques. So by taking this input, this artificial intelligence, you can able to decide that, right? So what is the requirement of this particular environment, what is kind of antenna is required, that can be through robotics, that can be implemented real time. That is the idea behind this kind of robotic intelligence antenna. But I'm really seeing that this can be used for in various applications in robotic point of view. And you can see this kind of robotics antenna. So the first picture shows that, right? There is again deflection, right? You can just close this the reflector in a closed manner, and in some cases you deploy the parabolic manner. Similarly, you can fold your right. You can fold your substrate in a multiple manner, so that you can use only the little portion of your substrate with the array. And once, if you want some other environment, the bigger physical dimension, so you can deploy that kind of substrate, so that you can get more array, so that if you're coming to the more array, you can increase the gain as well as the performance can be changed. So the antenna capability can be enhanced through the use of artificial intelligence to continuously monitor the surrounding environment and the real-time signal requirements. So based on that, right, you can simply change the antenna antenna physical structure. By the single antenna, you can able to avoid the multiple antennas, so that, right, it is a single system. It can able to fulfill all the requirement. So dynamically transform the antenna structure in response to the external or internal simulation. So dynamically, it can able to transfer the antenna structure based on the external or internal simulation. This can be really, it will be useful, right, when we're talking about future smart cities and the future any missions to the various interplanetary missions, or any kind of mobile communication, talking about MIMO and all, right? Definitely this kind of robotic intelligence antenna can be implemented. This is one of the case studies I just want to discuss here. The second one, what I want to discuss, the intelligence real-time beamforming radars, right? I think you would have heard some of the beamforming experts talk for various beamforming technique. Yeah, definitely there also this artificial intelligence can be implemented, so that you can able to do the best real-time beamforming. The entire real-time beamforming radars can be realized using artificial intelligence techniques with high efficient way. It's basically high efficient way. The real-time adaptive beam formation and tracking can be done. So you can see in the picture, the AI-based regressive adaptive auto-scan tracking system can be implemented here, right? Directly we can able to take the data from the GPS global positioning system for the tracking, and the digital map from the other domain. We can take geo EMI informations. So everything can be given into the AA system. So the AA system, based on this kind of real-time tracking AA system, you can able to take a decision based on that, right? You can able to steer the beam accordingly in real time. That is the major advantage of AI. So definitely this artificial intelligence is going to play a very important role. And now onwards, for the next 2 decades, in all the sectors, starting from the automobile to chemical industry and all the electronic industry also. So this is the two cases, right, I want to discuss in this forum, so that it will be useful for you people, right, to work on this kind of ideas. Okay, I'll just concluding my presentation with this, right? So So antenna system is a crucial in space application, and the design of antenna for space application needs more care and attention. The antenna intelligence based optimization of antenna and intelligence antenna will provide advancement in antenna technology, obviously. And antenna measurements are very complex task in the antenna realization phase. But nevertheless, with appropriate care, proper measurement setup, and understanding of the associate quantities, it is not difficult to obtain excellent results. So definitely, these all points has to be taken care when you are designing a space application antennas. So we in fact we have a separate society is called Antenna Test Measurement Society, where we can support all kind of antenna design as well as the measurement challenges through this society. You can just visit our website. The society is working for this. So with this, I'll conclude my presentation. Once again, I want to thank the convener and all the coordinator of this Achal workshop. And thank you for listening, all of you. Thank you so much, and Jai Hind.